So today we're going to talk about Harbor Freight shop tools. I'm going to talk about two specific that I own. I actually own a lot of them, but today we're just going to go over these two. This one here is a bead roller, and the one behind me is a throatless shear. So these two tools I've bought from Harbor Freight, and they seem to be pretty decent quality, even though they are cheap. But on that note, I want to touch on something else. My last video, I had some good and bad reviews from it, but one of the things that I got was from a gentleman who actually posted his own video. And what he talked about was, you know, that when you talk about Snap-on Mac or Matco or Harbor Freight, it's just preference and there is no difference between them. I beg to differ, and I'll explain why. Yes, I know Harbor Freight tools have a lifetime warranty. They're hand tools. But most technicians, or what he wants to call mechanics, and I want to touch on that too, but I'll get to this first. When a technician has a tool that's broken and he has to go warranty it, most mechanics and technicians get paid on what they call flag rate. In other words, if it calls for 3 hours to do a job, you're going to get paid 3 hours at your labor rate to do the job. Whether it takes you 2.5 or 5, you're still going to get paid 3. And a good technician can do 10 hours worth of work in an 8-hour day, making 10 hours worth of pay. That's the way it works. That's the way it works in most shops. But when you break it, you're in the middle of a job, you break a tool and you don't have one to back it up. Now you have to stop what you're doing, go get it warrantied, find your receipt first, go get it warrantied at Harbor Freight, and then come back and finish the job. That's wasted money. So the better quality of the tool, the faster you can get the job done. Now the other thing I want to touch on is his take on technicians. He states that technicians wear white gloves and have all of their accomplishments on the wall. That's not a technician. I mean, that's a prima donna, basically. But what anytime you diagnose a problem, let's say someone comes in with an overheating problem and you need to replace the thermostat, or you find out that the water pump's bad, or you find out the radiator's bad, or you find out it's got a blown head gasket, you have become a technician. A technician diagnoses the problem, then fixes the problem. A mechanic, you tell him, go put that water pump on, and he puts a water pump on. Or you tell him, go put an alternator on, and he puts an alternator on, or an oil change, whatever. He doesn't problem solve. A technician problem solves. So if you've solved a problem in a vehicle because you found out what the problem was, guess what? You've become a technician. All right, so let's go back to the Harbor Freight tools that we're going to look at today. So this is the throatless shear. Basically what it does is it has two cutting dies, one here and one here. And what you do is you put your piece of metal in and you pull back on the handle and it literally shears off the piece that you want. And it makes, you can go straight cuts, you can go round cut. Making a round cut, you actually have to maneuver your piece. But you can see that I could take off tiny little bits, or I can take off big chunks. This thing has been wonderful. And for the price of this, you can buy one from Eastwood. They're about $175, but yet you can find the same exact thing at Harbor Freight for about $120. So for me to tell you that buying the more expensive tool is better, not in this case. So let's move on to the bead roller. This is an inexpensive bead roller by Central Machine, which is basically Harbor Freight. I'm going to show you the good and bad on this one. There's a few things I actually want to modify. I was looking at these through Eastwood. I looked at them from Woodward Fab, which is where my tubing bender is from. But I picked the Harbor Freight one for the price point. The one through Eastwood, I think, was $189. And we were able to get this one on sale at Harbor Freight for $119, and there was no difference between the two that I could see. Now, the way these things work is you're going to take a piece of metal, and first of all, you're going to figure out where you want to put your roll into it. And you're going to take this piece of metal, and you're going to basically put it in to the machine, like so. And then you're going to go ahead, there's a cap screw, there's a screw here that locks down the amount of pressure you want to put on it. Now, this is one of the things I want to modify, and I'll explain why. I've learned that if I put too much pressure on it, I could actually ruin the metal and cut right through it. And I'll give you an example of that on this piece right here. Cut right through it. So I want to make a T-handle that goes into this bolt so I could do it by hand and get a feel for how much pressure I'm putting on it. For now, I'm using a ratchet. So basically what you do is you put the metal in, and you're going to turn this handle over here, and you could probably see coming out the other side, I've got a nice bead coming up through the metal. Now, the drawbacks to this machine that I can see since I've owned it is this piece right here, but it being mechanical, I'm having to move it by hand. You have to be super careful to make sure you don't go outside your lines that you drew. And it's tough to see what you're doing. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put an electric motor on this so I can hold the piece of metal straight and just pull right through it. So in just perfect example, I was going back over the line and I went way off the line because I couldn't see what I was doing. But you can get the idea of what it does. It puts a nice bead into the metal. Now, the reason why you would want that nice bead in the metal is once you put that bead into that metal, you've actually made that piece of metal stronger than what it was originally. So instead of it being all flimsy, we've put a bead in it to make it nice and stout. And if you put more beads in it, obviously you make it stronger. And what you do is, like, let's say you're making quarter panel replacements or something like that in the back of a race car. If you were to just put sheet metal over them, they rattle, they make all sorts of noise, and they're weak. Once you put a bead in it, it strengthens it up so it becomes not as flimsy and you get less noise in the car. Okay, so let's recap. Throatless Shear, probably one of the better buys I've gotten from Harbor Freight. This thing has been really good to me. I've used it a lot and I've been really happy with it. I've actually even had to replace the dies in it because I got a little crazy and tried to cut something that was way too big for it. But I've been really happy with it. Used it a lot, actually. As for the bead roller, I'm still gonna say a good buy, even though there's a lot of things I want to change on it. Like, I'm going to make a stand that's specific for it with wheels. I will figure out a way to put an electric motor on it that hopefully I can govern how fast or slow I go. And I want to put a handle here, that way I can tighten it by hand and get a good feel of how much pressure I'm putting on it. For the price, you can't beat this. This was actually probably one of the better buys also. So, Central Machine, a lot of things you're getting your game on good. I'm happy with them. If you want to get into sheet metal work and you're not sure if it's for you, but you think it's cool, these are two machines that you could buy reasonably inexpensive to start. And I really think you'll be happy with the results. And the professional, well, I know you're going to want a really good electric machine, but if you're doing it at home too and you need to save some money, these two are a great way to go. So I'm happy with them and I'm going to give them thumbs up. So anyhow, that's it for this week. Another short video, but I've got more stuff to show you, so there'll be more videos to come. So have a great week, guys. Thanks.